The girl at table 9. Jace sat alone at the spaceport food court on Station Arc 7. His plate was full of steaming hot fries, soaked in salty oil just like the ones back on Earth. It was one of the only human things still left in his life. He was tired. Another delivery done. No friends, no family waiting, just silence. Until he noticed her. Table 9. She sat in the corner, barely moving. Her skin was pale violet, eyes large and glowing faint green. Not like the other aliens laughing and talking. She was alone. Small. Thin. And staring at his fries. Jace paused mid-bite. The alien girl didn't blink, just stared. He looked around. No one else seemed to notice her. No server. No security. She looked like she didn't belong. He raised a fry toward her slowly as if feeding a stray cat. "You hungry?" he asked. She didn't answer. But her eyes followed the fry closely. He got up and walked to her table, holding the little red basket. Still no movement, still no words, just quiet fear. He placed the basket between them and gently pushed it toward her. She hesitated. Then, with shaking fingers, she picked up one fry, sniffed it, nibbled it, then ate it in one bite. Her face changed instantly. Wide eyes, shock, then warmth. She reached for a second. Jace chuckled. Careful, addictive stuff. Still no reply. But she ate 4 more. Jace sat across from her. "Name's Jace. I'm just a cargo runner. You don't talk much, huh?" "Nothing." She looked at him. But her body was tense. He noticed scars near. Her collarbone, small clean lines, surgical. He frowned. "You okay? You with someone?" She looked down, as if ashamed. That's when he noticed something else. 2 massive alien guards at the far end of the court. Watching. They didn't move. But the moment her hand touched another fry, their eyes narrowed. Jace leaned closer. "Are they after you?" Her hand stopped. She looked scared. That was enough. Jace stood up. The guard started walking toward them. "Let's get out of here," he said softly. She didn't move. So Jace held out his hand. "I won't hurt you, I swear." She looked at it for a long moment, then placed her small, shaking hand in his. They walked fast, not running. She stayed behind him, eyes flicking everywhere like a hunted animal. Jace led her through a maintenance hallway. Behind them, the guards were closing in. Jace picked up the pace. The girl stumbled once but caught herself. He pressed a button. A hidden side door hissed open. An old smuggler exit he used long ago. They stepped inside just before the guards reached the hallway. The door slid shut. Darkness. Jace turned on a small light. It flickered but worked. "Are you okay?" he asked. Again. The girl finally spoke. Her voice like soft wind. "Fries." He blinked. "What?" She pointed to the empty basket in his hand. "More?" Jace laughed for the first time in weeks. "You really like those, huh?" She nodded slowly, then added, "Safe. With fries." His smile faded into something softer. "What's your name?" She hesitated, then touched her chest. "Siri." Back at his ship, the girl sat near the engine room heater, holding a blanket and eating leftover fries Jace found in his ration bag. He watched her from the cockpit. She was calm now, not smiling, but calm. He tapped into the station's network, trying to trace who the guards were. Nothing in the database. No law enforcement records. No bounty posted. That made it worse. "Ghost trackers," he whispered. "They don't log anything." He turned around and walked back to her. "You're not safe here, are you?" She looked up. "Safe. With you." He froze. "Why me?" She tilted her head, thoughtful. "You shared food. Nobody shares food with things like me." He sat down beside her, trying to understand. "What do you mean, things like you?" She didn't answer, just leaned slightly against him. like a child might lean into sunlight after a long winter. He didn't move, didn't speak. He just let her stay there, quiet, still, protected. Somewhere far above, the guards made a call. She made contact with a human. He interfered. A cold voice replied through the comm. Let them bond, then bring them both in. Alive? Only the girl. She followed me home. Jace didn't expect to see her again. After giving her shelter for one night and sharing the last of his fries, he dropped her off near the docks at dawn. She said nothing as she stepped off his ship, just looked back once, her glowing green eyes holding something between sadness and hope. He had whispered, "Stay safe," and then flew off, thinking that was the end of it. It wasn't. He returned, 3 days later, docking at a refueling station near Titan 5. His ship smelled like oil and old clothes. The only thing that felt alive was his favorite music track humming in the cockpit. As he walked out toward the port exit, he heard a soft sound behind him. He turned around and froze. She was there. Siri. Same violet skin, same quiet, wild eyes, bare feet, dirty dress, and in her hands, crumpled but still held tightly, was the empty fries box. "You followed me?" Jace whispered. She gave a slow, tiny nod. "But how?" She looked down. "Smell. Memory. I remembered your sound." He blinked. "My sound?" She tilted her head and pointed to her ears. "You hum when you fly. Your ship sings." He laughed in shock. "You tracked me by my ship hum?" She nodded. Again. Jace scratched his head and looked around. This wasn't just a coincidence. This was a bond. But it didn't make sense. She barely knew him. Then again. Maybe that one moment of kindness, those fries, that warmth, was all she ever needed. All. "Right," he sighed. "Come on then." Back on the ship, she didn't go to the engine room this time. She sat in the co-pilot seat, like she belonged. Jace looked at her. "You sure you're not being followed?" She didn't answer. Instead, she unwrapped a small piece of cloth from her arm and handed it to him. It was a tracking device, cracked, dead. "I took it out," she said simply. Jace stared at her, stunned. "You did this yourself?" She shrugged. "Didn't want them to find you." He sat down slowly. "You're dangerous, aren't you?" She looked hurt. "I protect." He nodded. "From what?" She looked out the window. "From people who want to use." Later that night, Jace heard something strange. Growling. Low. Protective. He ran from the cockpit to the corridor. Siri was standing between him and a docking engineer who had boarded for maintenance inspection. The girl's body was stiff, her fingers curved into claws. Her eyes glowed brightly. She growled like a wild animal. The engineer stepped back in fear. "Whoa, what's wrong with her? I was just checking the hull." "She doesn't like strangers," Jace said, stepping in between them. "She's had a rough life." He turned to her. "Siri, it's okay. He's not a threat." She looked at Jace and slowly backed down, but not before whispering, "Too close. He came too close to you." That night, Jace couldn't sleep. What was this connection? She was protective beyond reason. She didn't trust others. But with him, she let down every guard. Why? He turned on his datapad and searched the galactic archives again. This time he didn't just look for her face. He searched for stories, experiments, alien hybrid programs, biobonding, and he found one file, just one. X-113, Omega subject, female. Capable of imprinting on first act of kindness, extreme loyalty, behavioral regression upon separation. Currently classified, dangerous asset. Approach with caution. Jace sat back horrified. "They built her," he muttered. They didn't raise her, they designed her. In the next few days, Siri settled in like she had lived there forever. She cleaned without being asked, cooked her own strange alien soup using ship rations, sat next to him during meals, and always stared at his fries like they were sacred. And if anyone approached, she growled, even at robots. One evening, Jace found a small drawing near his bunk. It was drawn with black grease pencil, a stick figure holding a tiny box, probably fries. Next to him, another stick figure, with glowing eyes and violet skin. And behind them, two huge shadows, marked with X's. Siri had drawn it. Her way of saying, "You saved me. Now I'll protect you." He leaned on the doorframe, watching her sleep curled near the heater. "Why me?" he whispered softly. She stirred in her sleep and answered without opening her eyes. "Because you shared. You touched her. Big mistake." The space station was crowded that day. Jace had taken Siri to a small outpost market, deep in the asteroid belt. He didn't want to, but supplies were low, and he couldn't leave her alone anymore. Not after what the files said. Not after what she had become. She walked close behind him, always watching. Always quiet. Jace noticed she wore a hood now, one he gave her. She said it helped her feel less stared at. Even with her head covered, the glow in her eyes sometimes leaked through the fabric. They moved between stalls. Metal parts, old power, cells, packaged protein, nothing special, until a merchant called out, "Hey, friend, is that a Caribbean girl behind you?" Jace tensed. Siri lowered her head. "No," Jace said quickly. "Just someone traveling with me." The merchant smirked. "Looks rare, you renting her?" Jace froze. Siri looked up, and her eyes were no longer soft. They shimmered, brighter than usual. Jace took her hand. "Let's go." But before they could move, someone grabbed Siri's wrist. A guard. "You need permits to bring off-worlders here, pal," he growled. "This one looks exotic. We'll take her in for testing." It happened in seconds. Siri's body moved like liquid lightning. She spun, twisting the guard's wrist backwards until it cracked. Then she slammed her elbow into his chest. He flew into the wall. The crowd screamed. People backed away. Another guard raised a shock baton. Jace shouted, "No, don't." Too late. The guard lunged at her. She caught the baton mid-air, yanked it from his hand, and snapped it in two like paper. Then she growled. Deep. Inhuman. Her skin flickered, shifting colors. Violet to silver, back to violet. Her teeth sharpened. Everyone stared in terror. Jace ran to her and grabbed her shoulders. "Siri, it's okay. I'm here." She turned to him, panting, eyes wild, muscles tense. But she didn't attack him. She lowered her arms and whispered, "He touched me." "I know," Jace said softly. "But we can't kill them. Not here." She nodded, barely. Back at the ship, she curled in the corner near the heater, shivering. Not from cold, but from something inside her. "I don't like them," she muttered. "They touched. That's not allowed." Jace knelt beside her. "No one should ever touch you without permission. But you have to control that strength. You scared them." She looked up. "Did I scare you?" He paused, then sat beside her and shook his head. "No, but it worried me." "I'll be better," she said, pressing her hand against his chest. "I'll protect only you." He felt his heart skip. "Why just me?" "Because you're mine." He blinked. "Siri." Her hand dropped. She whispered, "Sorry." But Jace wasn't angry. He just didn't understand. Later that night, while he slept in the cockpit, Siri stood in the shadows of the ship, alone, thinking. Something inside her had changed ever since the fries, since the first laugh, since the first warm look. She wasn't supposed to feel this. She was built to obey, to fight. But now she wanted something else. To belong. Far away, someone was watching through a hidden drone, embedded inside the docking bay walls. The man on the other end of the signal wore black armor and a breathing mask. His voice was rough and cold. "She's bonded already," he growled. "Accelerated imprinting. Dangerous levels." A voice replied through his earpiece. "Extract the human. Use him as leverage. What if she resists?" A pause. "Then activate her core instinct. She'll do whatever we command." The masked man grinned. "Let's break the pet." The masked hunter enters the ship. The ship was silent. Outside, the black of space hung like a curtain. Inside, only the hum of the engine kept time. Jace was fast asleep in his bunk, one arm thrown over his eyes. In the corner of the cargo bay, Siri sat still, knees drawn to her chest, eyes open. She hadn't slept. Her instincts wouldn't let her. Something was wrong. Suddenly, a sound. Clink. Metal on metal. Not from inside the ship, but from within, the walls. Siri stood silently, head tilting toward the floor panel. She sniffed the air, her nose flaring. She felt it. Intruder. The vent burst open. A black-gloved hand crawled out first. Then a shadowy figure in armor slid into the hallway. Slow, silent, deadly. He was nearly 7 feet tall, wearing a full black mask with red breathing vents. The masked hunter. He carried a shock net and a paralysis dart rifle, and he wasn't here to talk. He wanted the human. He wanted leverage. And if the girl didn't come willingly, Plan B would be activated. Siri didn't scream. She waited until he passed the fuel tanks. Then she lunged like lightning. Her foot struck his shoulder. The shock threw him against the wall, but he was fast. He spun around and fired the net. It wrapped around her arms, glowing with blue electricity. Siri fell to her knees, gasping. But she didn't cry. She didn't beg. Instead, her eyes turned white-hot, and something deep inside her awakened. Jace jolted from sleep. Alarms were blaring. He rushed toward the engine corridor and stopped when he saw them. Siri was glowing, not just her eyes. Her whole body pulsed with light. The net was disintegrating, melting away from her skin. The masked hunter took a step back. He tried to fire the dart rifle. Too late. She reached out, and the air shattered. A wave of force slammed into the attacker, hurling him across the hallway into the ship's bulkhead. He didn't get up. Smoke hissed from his armor. Siri stood slowly. Her face was calm, but her hands were shaking. "I don't know what that was," she whispered. Jace rushed to her side. "Are you okay? What happened?" She looked into his eyes. "They came for you." "Who?" he asked, checking her arms. She looked at the crumpled figure on the floor. "They want to use me, to hurt you, to make me a weapon again." Jace's face hardened. "Not while I'm here." They dragged the intruder to the rear airlock. Siri scanned his mask. No identity. Military-grade memory wipe. No smell of fear. Just command. Jace searched the body. No insignia. Just a black metal key embedded in his armor chestplate. He pulled it out and looked at Siri. "Any idea?" She nodded. "It's for opening me." "What?" She looked down. "That key is part of a collar system. They used it on me, too." Trigger control mode. Jace stared at the key. Cold. Heavy. He walked over to the airlock, dropped the man's body into an escape pod, and launched him toward the nearest patrol zone. Then, he threw the key into the stars. "Never again," he said. Siri blinked, quietly amazed. "You'd throw away control of me?" He turned to her. "You're not mine to control." A tear slipped from her glowing eye. No one had ever said that before. That night, Siri sat beside Jace at the table. She reached for a protein bar but paused, then carefully slid her last saved fry box toward him. "For you," she said. Jace chuckled. "You sure?" She nodded. "You shared once. Now I share." They smiled at each other. But deep in the galaxy, someone else was watching. And next time, they weren't sending one hunter. They were sending a team. and they had one order. Bring her back, dead or alive. You're not a weapon to me. Jace sat in the captain's chair, spinning the silver ring of the key he'd recovered, before he threw it into deep space. His fingers moved out of habit, but his mind was elsewhere. Behind him, Siri stood quietly, watching the stars through the side window. Her eyes glowed less now, calmer, softer, but a storm still lived inside her. Jace, she said finally, you should have used the key. He turned. Why would I ever do that? She took a step, closer. Because I'm dangerous. You saw it, you felt it. I'm not safe. You saved me. She looked down. I destroyed your ship corridor, melted weapons. I nearly crushed a man's ribs. What if next time I lose control? Jace stood and walked toward her. You didn't lose control. You took control. You stopped him. You protected both of us. Siri shook her head slowly. I was made in a lab. I wasn't born. I was grown. I was fed commands, not milk. They designed me to bond, yes, but to turn into a beast when that bond is threatened. Jace whispered, but I don't want a beast. She tensed. I want you, he added. Not the fighter, not the weapon, just Siri. They sat on the floor together, backs against the metal wall. Siri held the empty fry box in her lap, running her fingers across the grease stains like it was sacred. Her voice trembled as she spoke. I was in a cryo chamber for 36 years. Before that, I was trained in 9 languages, 7 weapons. But they never trained me for this. Jace raised a brow. For what? She glanced at him. For someone being kind to me. Jace smiled. You know, fries are powerful. She laughed softly. It was the first time her laugh didn't sound guarded, didn't sound forced. He looked at her. Do you remember who you were before the lab? She closed her eyes. I think I was happy, a child. Someone sang to me once, a lullaby in Caribbean. But then, darkness, experiments, they replaced memories with protocols. A tear rolled down her cheek. I want to remember. I want to be someone. Not just something. Jace gently placed a hand on her shoulder. Then we'll find the rest of you. Together. Suddenly, an alert flashed on the control screen. Incoming ship. Classified signal. Jace stood and checked the data. No registration, no ID. They're jamming nearby comms. Siri narrowed her eyes. It's them. How? Do you know? I feel it, she whispered. The bond. It's not just one way. They can still track me. Through pain. Jace turned to her. We don't have to run. We can fight. She gave him a look. You're human. They are elite retrieval units. You'll die. He grinned. I've got one advantage. What? He looked at her. You. 10 minutes later, they had a plan. Jace rigged the cargo bay with EMP charges. Siri crouched inside a locked container, pretending to be frozen, just like when Jace first found her. The fry box was hidden behind her. It's my reminder, she said, of who I really am. He nodded. Remember, you're not a weapon, not to me. The enemy ship docked. Boots slammed onto the floor. 3 soldiers entered. 1 tapped the container. We've got her, still in dormant state. The leader sneered. Stupid human. Probably didn't even know what he was sleeping next to. They opened the box. Siri's eyes shot open. Bright. Blinding. Beautiful. Boo, she said, and the EMP blast dropped the soldiers in one hit. Jace jumped down from the upper catwalk, landing beside her. Nice timing, he said. She smiled. You think I'm just protective of fries? They both laughed, right there in the middle of chaos. She called me her mate, in front of the entire galaxy. The stars were shining through the window as Jace leaned against the control panel, sipping. From a cracked metal cup, their ship was a mess, burn marks on the walls, fried circuits in the cargo bay. a stolen part from the enemy still humming beneath the floor. But Jace was smiling. Siri was humming softly while repairing a cooling coil. Her golden glow reflected off the silver walls. She wasn't tense anymore. She moved with grace, almost like she was finally breathing freely. That peace, however, didn't last long. Warning. Approaching galactic checkpoint. Jace sat up straight. Uh-oh. Siri turned. What kind of checkpoint? Jace checked the map. The kind run by peacekeepers and bounty systems. If anyone filed a claim on you, will be flagged. Siri's glow dimmed. Then we run? He shook his head. No time. They're already locking onto our ID. If we run, they fire. She stood still for a moment thinking. Her eyes narrowed, not in fear, but determination. Then she said one word. Mate. Jace blinked. Wait, what? Siri grabbed a datapad and began typing. You said it before, remember? That we're bonded. And that in your culture, bonding means something sacred. Well, in their system, bonded mates are protected from separation. You want to pretend we're married? No, she said, stepping closer. I want to declare it in front of the entire galaxy. Jace nearly choked on his drink. Now? Her smile was soft but wild. Now. A few minutes later, the ship docked with the checkpoint port. 3 uniformed aliens boarded, tall, gray-skinned, and wearing gold chest plates. One of them had a scanner that lit up red as soon as it faced Siri. Warning, experimental, asset registered. Return protocol, active. Siri raised her hand calmly. I invoke code 422, protection by mate bond. Under galactic law, no retrieval is permitted. The guards froze. Jace blinked. She's serious. The lead officer stepped forward. That is a bold claim. Proof? Siri turned to Jace. Do it. He stammered. Do what? She stepped forward, grabbed his shirt and pulled him close. Say it. Jace looked at the officers, then looked at her and said, She's my mate. The officer scanned again. The screen changed color. Green. The bond signature was confirmed. Siri had used her neural link to tie her energy with his. A faint pulse ran between their nervous systems. It wasn't a full mating bond, but enough to pass the scan. The guards looked at one another, confused. You are a couple? Siri turned to them. In every way that matters. One of, the guards whispered. He shared fries with her, I saw it in the log. The others nodded solemnly. That's sacred. The officers backed off. One of them muttered. We'll update the bounty system. Siri bowed slightly. Thank you. As they left the ship, Jace stood stunned. He turned to her. That worked? She smiled, biting her lip. Worked too well. He laughed. So, we're officially mates now? She stepped close and whispered, only in the system, then paused. Unless... He swallowed hard. She touched his chest gently. I don't care about codes or systems, but I care about you. He didn't say anything. Instead, he reached for her hand and held it. Firm, warm, real. Later that night, they sat at the edge of the ship's wing, watching the stars in silence. Jace nudged her shoulder. So what now, Mrs. Not a Weapon? She chuckled. Now, I stay close, and if anyone touches you again, I growl louder. Deal. And right then, for the first time in both their lives, they weren't running, they weren't hiding, they just were, together. Our bond lit up the skies and changed the galaxy forever. The stars above burned bright as the galaxy watched in silence. All screens, all systems, every satellite and broadcast relay pointed toward one small ship, Jace and Siri's ship. What started as a quiet journey had now pulled the attention of governments, bounty hunters, peacekeepers, and even ancient species. Why? Because the bond between a human and an experimental alien girl had triggered an ancient signal, one that hadn't been seen for 1,000 years. It's happening, Siri whispered. Jace stood beside her, watching as lights formed patterns. Outside the ship, symbols written in starlight glowing with golden energy. They danced across space, pulsing gently, forming something like a message. Jace asked, "Do you understand it?" Siri nodded slowly. "It's an old language from my creators. It says, 'The bond has awakened the key to peace.'" "Peace?" he echoed. But before she could answer, a siren echoed across the console. "Incoming transmission. Urgent." The face on the screen was an old alien, wrinkled and glowing blue eyes. He wore robes, not armor. "I am Elder Vokar, and we've waited generations for this day." Siri stepped forward. "You knew?" "Yes. The program that created you, Project Luma, was designed not for war but for peace. Only those who could bond across species, who chose love over fear, could activate the Starlight Accord." Jace blinked. "And what's the Starlight Accord?" Vokar smiled. "A message, a wave, a frequency that can reset aggressive AI, disarm weapons, and pause military systems across the galaxy. But it only works if triggered by a perfect bond." Jace and Siri exchanged a look. "You mean us?" "Yes. Your love can stop wars. But there was a catch. To activate it fully, one person must link their core energy to the beacon. A full merge, a permanent one." Siri looked down. "That means one of us won't come back." Jace stepped forward immediately. "I'll do it," she grabbed his hand. "No, you'll die. I was made for this. My body can survive partial fusion." "But your soul?" She smiled softly. "I found something beautiful in you. I don't need to live forever to carry it. If this is the way I protect you, then I've already won." Jace's eyes filled with tears. "This isn't fair." "No," she said. "It's love." They floated together toward the beacon, a glowing orb of ancient tech floating above a silver platform near their ship. Lights swirled as they stepped close. Siri kissed Jace's forehead gently, then stepped forward alone. Jace called out, voice shaking, "Wait before you go." She turned. He whispered, "I love you." She smiled with tears in her golden eyes. "I know. That's why this will work." The moment she touched the beacon, her body glowed bright. Not like a weapon, not like energy, but like hope. A pulse of golden light burst through the stars. Satellites shut down. Warships froze in space. Armies stopped moving. And every corner of the galaxy, every child, every soldier, every being, felt peace wash over them, for the first time in centuries. And then, silence. The light faded. Jace looked up. She was gone. Weeks passed. He wandered the galaxy searching. 1,000 systems, 1,000,000 voices. But no sign of her. Until one quiet morning, on a small moon with yellow trees, he found a flower glowing gold in the dirt. Beneath it was a small metal tag, his fry box, and one line, carved with perfect precision. "I'm still with you." Jace dropped to his knees. He laughed. He cried. And for the first time since she left, he felt her warmth again, not in the stars, but in his heart, as